Here's what we're going to do now. We're going to do our knee warm-up stretches. Like I said before, with our weight-bearing joints, our hips, knees, and ankles, these are the ones that if you do have fall fears, or if you do stand a high risk of falling, maybe you have fallen before, or you don't have good balance, these are ones that you want to especially pay attention to and make the choice to have a chair nearby or use the chair or do those seated. So I will show you how to do those in the different ways. So with our knee warm-up exercises, both that we do have a punch. So we have a loose fist. Whenever we make a fist in Tai Chi, we never squeeze our hands. When we squeeze our hands, that causes tension in our joints, and tension is pain, and that's what we try to avoid. So when we make a fist, it's a loose fist. It's almost like you're holding an egg and you don't want to break it. Or I like to think about that time I was at Walmart and I was carrying 2 Cadbury eggs and I didn't want to hold them very tightly because they would have melted. So think about that, just a loose fist holding an egg. You don't want to break the egg. We have our fist down here by our hips. If we were to have our fist up here, then you can see my shoulders raised, and that causes tension there. So I come down here and it's a more relaxed stance. Anytime we do our Tai Chi movements, we think about body awareness, how we're holding our bodies, how we're holding our weight. So we think about our feet being about shoulder width apart. We have good posture. Our weight's on both legs, evenly distributed. Our shoulders are relaxed. And most importantly, we're breathing. So we have our loose fist down here by our hips. Now the punch looks like this. Punch out, back down to our hip, punch out, back down to our hip. Now when we talk about that punch, we don't go all the way out. We still keep that soft bend in our elbow. Anytime we think about our joints in Tai Chi, we keep a loose joint and we don't go out all the way and completely stiffen our arms. So that's the punch. Whichever arm we punch out with, something's happening with the opposite leg. So the first knee exercise or warm-up stretch looks like this. I shift the weight to one side. I lift my leg. I place my toe out and I punch that opposite hand. Back up a little bit so you can see. So I shift the weight to one leg. I lift, tap, and punch. So whenever I say tap, shift, lift, tap, I can tap that toe out on the ground, or I can lift it a little bit higher. So shift, lift, place that toe out as I punch, come back, feet together. Shift, lift, tap that toe out, bring that foot back side by side. So you can pretend there's a cup out there and you're tapping your toe on top of that cup. If you get really good at this movement, and you'll have good days and bad days with it. Some days I can do it easily, some days I can't. But the extreme of this warm-up stretch looks like this. Shift, lift, and it's a kick and punch. So I lifted my leg very high. Here. Shift, lift, tap, and punch. So you're in control of how high you take that foot. If you need to use a chair, you can completely skip the punch movement. So holding on to the chair, you can shift, lift, tap, and punch. Y'all let me know if you find a clear chair, because this will be great for this class. Shift, lift, tap, and punch. Or you can look to the side, hold with one hand, lift, tap, back together. Shift, lift, tap, together. or you can do just one side here and then come to the other side of the chair to do the other leg. The most important thing is that you are safe and that you feel supported by your body and you don't have that fear of falling. Yes, we want to push ourselves, just a little outside of our comfort zone, because when we're outside of that comfort zone, that's when we grow. So that's what our goal is. But let me show you what it looks like when you're seated. When we're seated, we still think about body awareness and our foot placement. We like to be about shoulder width apart with our feet. We can have those loose fists down here by our hips. We shift to one side, and by shifting, I mean push one leg into the floor, engaging those muscles. Shift, lift, and put that toe out there, come back together. Shift, place the weight onto that foot, push it into the floor, lift, place that toe out there, and our punch. So again, you're in control of how high you put that toe out there. You may feel comfortable a smaller movement, just putting that, scooting that toe just above the floor. So those are your options there. That's our first warm-up exercise for our knees. The second one, and I'll go ahead and do the seated version since I'm seated, again, starts with our punch, or has the punch, the same punch as before. We do something similar where we shift the weight or push the foot into the floor. And this time, instead of putting our toe out, we put our heel out. Lift, put that heel out and punch. Bring that foot back. Shift or push that foot into the floor. Lift that foot, put the heel out and punch opposite hand. Shift or push that foot into the floor. Lift, heel and punch. Bring it back, shift, put that foot, heel out, and punch. So the difference in the two knee exercises or warm-up stretches for seated are simply put your toe out or put your heel out. So you would want to do 3 for each leg for each exercise. That's the seated version. The standing version is a step forward. You would not step forward out of your chair because you would fall out of your chair. So it does look different when we're standing. So here's what the second warm-up stretch looks like. We shift our weight, we step heel toe, and it's just a small step. Now I'm going to shift the weight to that front leg as I punch my opposite hand, shift the weight to my back foot, and then bring my feet side to side. Shift, step heel toe, shift and punch, bring that weight back, feet side by side. I'm going to turn to the side and show you what that looks like. So we shift, step heel toe, shift to that front foot, and shift back. I want to bring a couple things to your attention. You see that my step forward, the heel of my foot and the toe of my other foot are about in the same line. I did not take a huge step forward. I took a tiny step forward. Now, sometimes it may be here, sometimes it may be here, and it will look different for each of us because our bodies are all different and our comfort is all different. So you just figure out what works best for you. But it is a small step forward. We shift the weight, I step forward. The other thing I want you to notice is whenever I shift that weight to that front foot, my back foot stays flat on the ground. It doesn't lift up. Oh gosh, that's why we don't lift our foot up. Because when we lift that foot up, it propels our bodies forward. And if we're ever leaning, whether it be forward, backwards, or side to side, that's going in the direction of falling. And that goes against what we're trying to do here. So we have the step. When we shift that weight forward, this foot is flat on the ground. Also, I want you to pay attention to the knee of this front foot. That when I shift the weight to that front foot, my knee does not extend in over my toe. It does not do that. That hurts your knee. If it didn't hurt if you tried it, then it will eventually hurt you. So keep that in mind. You don't extend that knee over that toe. So it's shift the weight and then bring the weight back to that back foot, side by side. Shift, step, heel, toe, shift and punch, bring that foot back, feet together. Okay, so here we go. We for our second knee warm up, shift the weight, step, heel, toe, shift to that front foot as I punch the opposite hand, bring the weight back, feet side by side. Shift, step, heel, toe, shift as I bring that weight to the front foot, shift the weight back, bring the foot back, side by side. Shift, step, heel, toe, shift the weight as I punch, shift it back, feet side by side. Shift, step, heel, toe, shift as I punch, come back, feet side by side. So to review the 2 knee warm-up stretches, remember both of them, we have the loose fist like we're holding an egg we don't want to break, down by our hips because that doesn't cause tension in our shoulders. The first one, we shift the weight to one side, we lift, place the toe out, as we punch opposite hand, bring the foot back, side by side, shift the weight, lift, tap and punch, bring it back, side by side. Shift, lift, tap and punch, lift, bring that foot back, shift, lift, tap and punch, bring that foot back, side by side. The second knee stretch, shift, step, heel, toe, shift the weight to that front foot as I punch, bring it back, feet side by side. Shift, step, heel, toe, shift as I punch, bring it back, feet side by side. Shift, step, heel, toe, shift as I punch, shift back, feet side by side. Shift, step, heel, toe, shift as I punch, bring it back, feet side by side. So there are your 2 warm-up stretches for your knees. Keeping in mind that you have options to do those standing, using your chair, and forgetting the arm movements, or also seated. You will notice if you try them seated, they may be a little more difficult than they are when you're standing in a way. Of course, if you have that fear of falling, it may satisfy you to be able to sit down. But because you're starting from a position where you're here and you're coming out, or you're putting that heel out, that is more challenging for your hip joint. So you may feel that. You may engage quadricep muscles sitting that you don't necessarily use whenever you're standing. So you may feel that. You may explore both just to see what feels the best for you or what you like the best. Most important thing always is that you listen to your body and you always make decisions that help keep you safe, but also keeping in mind that you want to grow and get stronger so that you have less chance of falling in your future. So that's our knee exercises. We only have one more to go. Let's end this by having our fist that represents our strength, our straight fingers that represents our friendship, our bent thumb represents our humility. We put those together and in mutual respect, we say namaste.